So after learning all the basics, let's start solving. So before we go into solving, we need to know a few rules. Okay, this is very important and please do take note. Let's just say we have this inequality. Now, the first rule, our goal is to make x alone. Okay, so we have to isolate it. And how do we do that? We have to add 3 to both sides. This is because of the next rule. Whatever you do on one side, you must do it to the other, just like a mirror. So if you wave into the mirror, your reflection will also wave back to you. So you have to keep things balanced. So after all these, you will get an isolated x and also your final answer. So here's another example. Now, let's look at this. Okay. Now, what do you do if you have x on both sides? I'm supposed to isolate x on one side. So I will shift all my x to the left and all my numbers to the right. And remember how I do this? It is because of the rule that if I were to do it on the left, I will have to do it on the right, just like a mirror. So to remove this plus 6, I have to minus away the 6. And subsequently, I will get the minus 6 here. And to remove the x on my right side, I have to minus away the x. And I also minus the x on the left, which gives me this. So I will solve, and then I will get my final answer. So after addition and subtraction, it comes multiplication and division. So let's just take this, for example. Remember the rule that we talked about just now? We have to always remember the mirror. Whatever we do on the left, we must do it on the right. And also the other rule where we have to isolate x. So x shouldn't have any friends, okay? So in this case, x has a 4. What do we do if we want to make 4x to x? We have to divide 4x by 4. And so if we divide 4 on the left side, we have to divide 4 on the right side also. So we will get this answer. But here comes the more complicated part. When we have to divide any number by its negative, we have to reverse the inequality sign. For example, if I give you this equation, I have to isolate the x, remember? And if I have to isolate the x, I have to make sure that this negative 2 is gone. So if I divide negative 2 by both sides, because of the mirror rule, I have to divide by both sides, I will get x smaller than negative 3. So the important thing to take note here is that the change of the signs. So whenever you divide or multiply by its negative, you have to flip the signs. So here are more examples. If you see this, don't worry, you just have to isolate x, remember. So to make negative x, you can either divide x by negative 1 or multiply x by negative 1. And remember the mirror rule. If you multiply negative 1 on the left, you have to multiply negative 1 on the right. And so you will get this answer. So what if things look messy, like with fractions? You don't have to panic. You just remember the 2 main rules. One, it is to isolate the x. And also 2, to apply the mirror rule, where the left, whatever you do to the left, you must do it to the right. So look at this example over here. We need to first isolate our x, right, on the left. So Let's do it step by step by pulling out all the numbers in the denominator so that it's easier for us to find x by itself. So what I will do is to remove the 3 at the bottom by multiplying 3 to both sides. See? Isn't this equation so much easier to understand? And from here, to isolate x, I just need to divide both sides by 2. And there we have our answer. Okay, so here is the neater presentation of the answer if you need it. Before we move on, let's do a quick test on what we just learned. Please pause the video if you are trying it out. Okay, if not, I will just go through the question. So, the question asks if you can spot the mistake of the students working. So first of all, remember the 2 rules when we are dealing with inequality. It is to isolate the x and also to mirror both sides. But it seems like this student did whatever is here. But he's forgetting a very important note that we had just now. It is when you were to multiply a negative, you will have to flip the sign. If you're unsure, you can go back to the video where I explained about this. So the student should actually have flipped the sign because he divided both sides by negative 3. So it should have been less than or equal to negative 3. Here is a second question of a quick test. Please do pause the video if you are trying it out. If not, I will continue. So let's look at part 1. It says a tour bus can carry up to 48 passengers. There are already 18 adults on board, and each group of students boarding the bus includes 1 teacher and 4 students. How many of such groups can board the bus? So let's break this down. So the question says the maximum amount of passengers is 48. And there are already 18 students that are already on board. And it also says that each group has 5 people, which includes of 1 teacher and 4 students. So in this case, let x be the number of groups. Okay, and since there are already 18 people on board, and with x number of groups with 5 people in it, it will be 5x. And on a bus, it can only carry up to 48. It cannot be 49. So you have to put less than or equal to 48. And since you already have your equation, you can start solving for it. To isolate the x, you minus 18 on both sides. And you isolate the x by dividing 5 on both sides, and you'll get 6. So how many of such groups can board the bus? It is 6 or below. So moving on to part 2, looking at this equation, don't worry, we'll do it step by step. Okay, so first rule is to isolate the x. Since we have a fraction over here, we have to remove the 3 first. So we can do it by multiplying both sides by 3. Now it looks really complicated, so let's just expand this equation. Much better. So now that we have a very clear equation, let's isolate x by moving x to the right side. So you add 12x to the left, and you add 12x to the right. And so you will get this final equation for you to solve. To now finally really isolate the x, you divide both sides by 13. And there you have your answer. But remember, in exam, some examiners might be very picky on where you put your x, and most of them will prefer x to be on the left. And so if you want x to be on the left, all you have to do is to flip the equation around. So it's like a mirror, and imagine just flipping it around and you will get this. Okay, moving on to part 3. Same situation, we can do it step by step. Okay, so now if we see a fraction, remember that we have to clear the denominator first. So we do that by multiplying both sides by 2. And since it's very messy, we will expand it, and it will be 8x minus 10 greater than 3x minus 1. Now that it looks very clear, let's isolate the x to the left. So it will be 8x minus 3x on both sides, and minus 1, plus 10 on both sides. And if you were to simplify this answer, you will get this. And the final answer will be this. I hope all these questions really help you to recap. If you're still unsure, you can always play back the video and rewatch it again.